Hello, I am a woman in my late 30s. I am not sure what you will think when I say this, but to be honest, I do not fully understand the meaning of words like affection and love between parents and children. As someone who has no memory of my own parents, these emotions feel like a difficult problem to solve. If I had to describe myself in one word, I would say I am practically an orphan. My parents left me and my toddler sister at a daycare center temporarily, but then cut off all contact with us. I only know this because my father's business failed, and he got into a lot of debt. My parents were in a hurry to run away from their problems. I only learned this story on the day I left the orphanage, from the director. Despite my difficult upbringing, I consider myself fortunate because I have no memories of my parents to miss, or wonder why they abandoned us. Another blessing in my life is my younger sister. She is the one who kept me from falling into despair and hatred, filling my life with love and affection as a surrogate for our absent parents. Growing up without their love, it was comforting to have my sister by my side in the lonely and desolate orphanage. From a young age, we naturally filled the void left by our parents for each other. We grew up as very close sisters. I worked hard to be a solid rock for my sister to lean on at all times. I chose to work instead of going to college, in order to earn money for my sister's education. On the day we saved up enough money to rent our first apartment, we hugged and cried all night long. And when my sister received an acceptance letter to Harvard University, we cried again as I put everything else aside to pay for her tuition. Perhaps even then, I already saw my sister as my own child. No, she definitely was. Then and now, she is my only sister and the daughter I raised on my own. My younger sister also sees me as her surrogate mother, which is why she placed a carnation on my chest on her first day of university. What is this carnation for? It's just a way of saying, thank you. You did a lot for me, but when I think about it, I realize I didn't do much for you. So I thought I would take this time to express my feelings. What do you mean you didn't do anything? I am thankful to you for not losing your self-esteem and growing up so strong. What that? Can you just take it once? I didn't know what she meant, so I just looked at her silently. Honestly, I could have gone astray many times. The person who held me back was you, sis. Because you were next to me, providing strong support like an evergreen tree that I couldn't go astray. Rather, just looking at how hard you were working to support me, I couldn't do anything else but study to become a great person like you someday. You're amazing, Joanne. Who do you take after so much that you think so wonderfully? I must take after you, sis. You're my mom, so who would I take after? Anyway, please wait just a little bit longer. I'll definitely succeed, and pay back 10 times what I received from you, sis. For sure, I'll be good to you for the rest of my life, so you can look forward to it. Seeing my younger sister smiling cheerfully, it was only then that I was able to understand a little bit what the feeling of affection and love between parents and their children must be like. They were still an enigma to me, but at least I was able to feel one thing clearly. Maybe this is what a parent's heart towards their child is like. Once I felt it, I couldn't stay still. Since I was her older sister and mother, I wanted to become a more stylish and proud family. Coincidentally, I was in a situation where I was faced with a choice, as the job I had been working at since my early days was closing down. I had to choose whether I would get a new job or jump to a new challenge towards my dream. Between those two choices, I decided to challenge myself to achieve my dream. As if blood was thicker than water, my sister was also thinking the same thing. It was a crossroads between whether we should take on the challenge of pursuing our dreams or not. I should have looked into it when she was thinking about majoring in business since she was young. Anyway, that's how our current online shopping mall business began. For a while after that, we were very busy. Since we could not afford to set up a separate office, we opened an office in the rented apartment we were living in, with the consent of the landlord, and financed the business with a loan I barely managed to get from a bank. Fortunately, the online shopping mall was a perfect fit for us, two sisters. I had a knack for customer service, and my younger sister, who was a college student majoring in business at the time, had excellent business acumen. Thanks to this, the internet shopping mall was growing day by day. I soon moved my office to a commercial building, and even upgraded to a larger space on a lease. I was in my mid-30s while running such a successful business. My younger sister graduated from college and was just turning 30. My sister and I, who became landlords of a newly built apartment building, had become successful businesswomen. Before I knew it, my younger sister had become an adult. The moment I realized it was the day my younger sister, who had clearly been suffering from worries for several days and nights, confessed to me. "Sis, I'm worried." "Yeah, it's been looking like that for the past few days." "Is this a bad thing?" "You know, sis, I received a proposal." "Why is that a concern?" "It's a good thing." "Is he a man who is good for dating but not for marriage?" "No, he's a good guy. He's the person who made me think that it was okay to look forward to my second favorite person after you. If I had to spend my whole life with someone other than you, that would be him. So I'm worried about you, sis." "Why?" "It's okay for me to get married, set up a new home, and move out. If that happens, you'll live alone for a while. This new apartment we just moved into is too big for you to stay alone." Honestly, I was a bit surprised. My younger sister, whom I thought would have been my younger sibling for years and years, has now reached the point of marriage. The fact that she was ready to start a new family, of course, was surprising, but it was even more surprising that she was mature enough to worry about leaving me. At the same time, I felt a little disappointed. Can you say that it is a mother's heart to marry off the daughter she raised with so much care? Joanne, do you know how I feel right now? I know. You'll feel hurt. Yes, that's right. I also feel sad because we had a much more special relationship than other sisters. To me, you're a younger sister who is like a daughter, and I'm an older sister who is like a mother. But I feel much happier than sad that there is someone who will love you as much as me in this world. Still, sister, people start a new family when the time comes. People start a new family when the time comes. From brothers and children in the same family, she becomes someone's wife, and she eventually becomes a mother. It's a very natural process, right? Do you love that guy? Yes, then that's enough. Stop worrying about me and get on with your life. I sincerely congratulate you. Finally, my sister began to prepare for a new life as a married couple. To keep her from getting discouraged for not having any parents, I did my best to help her both materially and spiritually, starting with bridal classes. Fortunately, my sister's college classmate owned a small wedding shop. It also saved a lot of money for her wedding. What was also fortunate was that my sister's future husband was an only son, and a prospective single mother-in-law, although they were financially poor, did not seem to be very uptight or poverty-stricken people. My future brother-in-law's personality seemed upright and friendly, and I also thought that her in-laws were amazing at raising her son, despite difficult circumstances in educating him and helping him get a job at one of the country's leading conglomerates. At that time, I thought my sister had chosen a good man. One day, as wedding preparations were nearing completion, I suddenly began to notice signs of an abnormality. When I was with my sister, my future in-laws, who had been talking about a simple wedding, suddenly came to see me, without my sister, and criticized us. "Isn't this too thoughtless of you?" "I beg your pardon? What are you saying all of a sudden?" No matter how much I said we should have a simple wedding, from wedding gifts to wedding expenses, none were to our satisfaction. If you were dissatisfied with that, why didn't you tell me before? If you suddenly do this, when we have already paid the deposit, we'll be put in an awkward predicament. Anyway, these days, young ones are so thoughtless. Do I really have to explain it in words for you to understand? If the elders stay silent, they should notice it without us even having to mention it. You have to bend first. Thoughtless? Bend first? Now that I'm listening to you, I think you are saying it a bit too harshly. And I'm not only your son's future older sister-in-law, but at the same time I'm sitting here instead of my mother. It's a natural courtesy to speak respectfully. This is why I try not to let my son marry into a family without a mother or father. Why do you show off in front of others that you have no manners? It's because you were never taught properly, growing up without any parents, resulting in a poor home education. Look here, ma'am. Please watch what you're saying. Why? Do you think you can take us for fools just because we don't have money? If we are poor, is it okay to have a cheap wedding? What are you saying? What is wrong with our wedding preparations? Even though it isn't luxurious, I didn't prepare it carelessly for you to find fault with. Also, I heard that the newlywed house is a newly built townhouse, and everything will be paid for entirely by my sister's money, so that should be enough. Yet, why are you expecting more? Should we buy everything from luxury brands for you? Right, well said. We don't have anything, so I can't contribute a penny to the newlywed home. But you're not, are you? I heard that you are quite successful with your business. If so, couldn't you at least buy a Mercedes-Benz for your sister's mother-in-law? And couldn't you buy an apartment building with a residential house attached, so I could live comfortably while receiving monthly rent in my old age? That's what I mean. Our business is not yet at a level where we can buy you a car like a Mercedes-Benz or an apartment building. Even if that were the case, it would be too much to ask. Unless you plan to take advantage of my sister and me. Why not? Couldn't you help us out since we are new family members? They say you guys are rich. How can someone be so shameless? It's clear that she was out of her mind. Otherwise, how could she say something like that to someone's face so openly? That alone would be enough to make me furious, but what my in-law said next was even more outrageous. Keep in mind, even if you have a lot of money, it doesn't change the fact that you are an orphan. If an orphan without a mother or father wants to get married, she has to pay a high price. There's no marriage in the world where an orphan daughter-in-law is accepted for free. I won't let my son, who works at a large company, get married like that. You speak so rudely to the end. Okay, just keep this in mind. It's true that my parents aren't here, but I didn't raise her to be like that. I raised her to not be looked down upon as an orphan. So, are you saying you can't spend a penny? I'll contact you after I think it's over. I'll leave you now for today. Of course I felt like giving up on the whole wedding right away. But I had to suppress it once. It was not just any other marriage, but the marriage of my beloved younger sister, whom I raised like a daughter. After me, my younger sister said her future husband was the second person she wanted to share her life with. It was a parent's heart where I couldn't bear to see tears in my sister's eyes. So what could I do? I immediately went to my future brother-in-law's company, called, and waited for him nearby. I intended to inform him of his mother's atrocities and ask him to crack down on her. However, it seems that he was just like his mother. For some reason, he changed the meeting place far from the headquarters where he worked, and even showed up much later than the appointed time. And the first thing he did was hand over a list of wedding gifts worth over $100,000, including a contract to buy a car, a Mercedes-Benz, to be gifted to his mother. Jason, what are you doing now? Well, you said you finished talking with my mom. Then proceed according to the estimate here. Are you saying that even you are going to act like this? It may sound vulgar, but marriage is a reality. Well, from my perspective, it's a marriage that I deserve to expect at least that much. How rare is it to have a husband with such a great job at a great company like that these days? If it's not Joanne, an orphan, I have many women from an excellent family background who said they liked me. While I was so shocked that I couldn't even respond, my future brother-in-law shamelessly continued his talks. And since I'm starting a new wedding preparation, if you give me the amount in cash as per the quote, I'll take care of all the inconvenient things like making reservations. You should also focus on working at the shopping mall rather than your sister's wedding. Anyway, when we get married, half of the company will be mine, so let's make the shopping mall prosper a little more before then. Do you understand what I'm saying, right? What nonsense. If handing out a ridiculously expensive estimate isn't enough, what did you say? If we get married, half of the company will be yours? Are you really planning on taking advantage of my sister? Be careful what you do. If you continue to act so arrogantly, then this marriage will be cancelled. It hasn't occurred to you that I might decide to cancel this marriage first, has it? Are you planning to cancel it here or there? For someone like your sister, who is nothing but an orphan, when will she get a chance to marry someone with a great job and a bright future like me at an international conglomerate again? A great job with a bright future? Even so, you're nothing but human trash. You should think carefully about what you're doing. You're only breaking your sister's heart and making her cry. You have more than enough money anyway. Why not sacrifice a little for your beloved sister? Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I'm gonna push Joanne into that ugly den where it's obvious you're only marrying for money? That will never happen as long as I'm alive. Even if it's just to save my sister, this marriage ends here. I didn't think it was even worth talking about anymore, so after saying those words, I stormed out. On the way home, I was wondering how I could get revenge for playing with my younger sister like that. I also never stopped thinking about how I could tell my younger sister that the man she loved was actually a gigolo, so that her shock would be lessened. But when I returned home, I found my younger sister crying. I was anxious and waited for hours for her to stop crying. But when she finally did, what she told me was truly shocking. Do you remember my college classmate? The one who runs a small wedding shop? Yes, of course. Thanks to her, we were able to save a lot on wedding costs, and I saw her often when I went to her shop. Right. Anyway, I met her during the day about the wedding invitation. Right? But what she said was that the addresses on the groom's guests were strange. Tell me exactly how. The addresses kept looking familiar to her, so she checked and found out that all the addresses were for people who worked part-time as hired wedding guests. For a moment my head was spinning, but I had to stay calm for my sister. How did your friend find out? It's personal information protected by law, so she can't just access the information of existing customers. Their company directly manages and operates a part-time job program for hired wedding guests. Why? When you look at the weddings of people who are remarrying, there are often cases where it's difficult to fill the number of guests and guests. It was originally a good program for those people, but she didn't know there would be people abusing it like this. I really didn't know that the person abusing it would be my future husband. I thought it was something that could happen. The story of the part-time hired fake guest was to avoid a dull, barren-like wedding. I heard about it often too. I heard it from a friend who worked part-time as a hired wedding guest. It was for the sad circumstances of the bride and groom who were having a lonely wedding, to give them a heartfelt blessing, like a real friend. He even left his part-time pay as a gift because he felt sorry for them. If my sister's friend's company manages and operates such a program, the addresses of the part-time hired wedding guests will be the same every time, so it'll be hard not to notice them. Moreover, my situation was after experiencing firsthand just how trashy my future in-laws and prospective brother-in-law were, right? In this situation, the fact that the groom's guests were fake, I had no choice but to accept it as the undisputed truth. Anyway, after listening to my sister's entire story, I confessed to her that I thought her future in-laws and her future husband were getting married for money. And then a question occurred to me. But you know, if you think about it, your prospective husband was a bit strange. When I called him earlier today, why did he insist on changing the meeting place to a place very far away instead of near the office? An employee of a large company is known for being the busiest in the world. He wouldn't be able to freely travel far from the office during work hours. Where was it so far away? Gardena. It takes more than 2 hours to get to the office by subway. My sister's eyes widened. Why? Is there anything you know? There, that's the neighborhood where my in-laws are. The moment I heard my sister say those words, I thought, oops. And at that moment, a thought flashed in my mind. Maybe even the story of my sister's fiancé working for a large company might be a lie. He may have been lounging around at his house in Gardena and then came out in a hurry. Until then, it was just a guess. Unable to shake off my anxiety, my sister and I set out straight away. And after wandering around for a while near the meeting place where I met my future brother-in-law, we were able to see it with our own eyes. My sister's fiancé, who was said to be an employee of a large conglomerate, was working part-time at a convenience store near his house. We had been watching this scene, holding our breaths, and turned away without saying a word. But by then, we had decided what to do. My future in-laws and brother-in-law, who were discussing a simple marriage, came to see me without my sister's knowledge and suddenly demanded a large amount of money for wedding expenses. My future brother-in-law said he would take care of everything, including reservations and other things, all in cash. In that situation, the addresses of their guests on the groom's wedding invitation were actually the addresses of part-time hired wedding guests, posing as relatives and friends. We even caught him, who was said to be an employee at a large company working part-time at a convenience store. So what was this marriage about? It was a fraudulent marriage that left no room for doubt. When I finally found out the whole truth, I was so shocked that I suffered from physical aches for several days. Even though I had a high fever, I was very worried about the hurt my younger sister would receive. But even looking back now, I feel like I did a really good job raising my sister. She was very courageous and she handled everything very maturely. Sis, why do I keep thinking that everything turned out for the better? Why? I'm getting sick just thinking about it. It's because I found out before I got married. Also, you didn't lose a penny to those despicable, greedy people yet. More than anything, you are by my side. As long as you stay by my side, I have nothing to be afraid of in this world. So, what do you want to do? What should I do for you? Let's fight together. As my sister and mother joined me in giving back to those people. We came together and immediately went to see a detective acquaintance and consulted with him. But unfortunately, under the circumstances at the time, there was no way to bring criminal punishment for fraudulent marriages. This was before the marriage relationship was established, and I didn't suffer any financial loss. It was also a time when things like gifts that had been reserved could be refunded without penalty. But that didn't mean we were going to just sit still. Even though we couldn't handcuff the wrists of those fraudsters, I had started to make some kind of preparation step by step. My sister pretended that nothing had happened. Just like before, she kept in touch with her future husband. A few days later, I finally finished all the preparations and called my prospective brother-in-law and in-laws. I tempted them with sweet words, saying somewhat indirectly that I would give them everything they wanted for the wedding. Then, my future brother-in-law and his mother came running to me immediately with excitement. Well, they were very startled when they saw my sister and me together. After gathering his emotions for a moment, my future brother-in-law asked my sister, "Honey, what are you doing here?" I thought it was just your sister meeting with us. Before I could answer, a middle-aged couple dressed in neat suits appeared. They introduced themselves as our biological parents. My future brother-in-law was shocked and asked, "What kind of situation is this, Jenny? You called us and we thought you were going to give us the money for the wedding gifts. Yet, what do you mean they are my father-in-law and mother-in-law when I didn't even know they existed?" I explained that my parents wanted to meet them and say hello. My future brother-in-law was surprised and asked, "Greetings? Who suddenly?" I replied, "My parents." He then asked, "What do you mean? You're an orphan, aren't you? Meet them first." As soon as my sister said this, more people dressed in neat suits appeared. They introduced themselves as our aunts, uncles, and other relatives. My future brother-in-law was shocked and asked, "Why are all these people here? Are they hired thugs?" I assured him that they were our real family and not hired thugs. I then explained that in the past, my sister and I had arranged our own marriage without our parents or any elder relatives present. My future brother-in-law had looked down on us, calling us poorly educated orphans without any parents. I wanted to correct this mistake and introduce our real family to him. He was still skeptical and asked, "Is it okay?" I replied, "Of course it is. Now that we've met each other like this, I'd like to start talking about marriage again from the beginning." My future brother-in-law's attitude changed and he apologized for his previous behavior. However, he still maintained his shameless attitude and asked, "Why are you bringing in all these people now? Did you hire them to threaten to cancel the marriage?" I reassured him that our family was not like that and that we wanted to include them in our wedding preparations. I also introduced him to our aunts, uncles, and other relatives who had come to meet him. He was shocked and lost half his soul, but I didn't miss the opportunity to hit the nail on the head. I wanted to show him that our family was real and not hired thugs. Why do you keep suspecting they're fake, huh? Like people who tried to mobilize fake wedding guests? Then his eyes twitched. But you know what? You're right. In fact, they're not our parents or relatives. All of those people are the ones you hired to attend my sister's wedding by saying they were your relatives. They're fake hired guests. Then their faces turned white. The people I brought in for revenge were part-time professional wedding guests that my future brother-in-law had prepared for his fraudulent marriage. The detailed story was like this. The day I heard from a detective acquaintance that I could not handcuff my future brother-in-law and in-laws on charges of fraudulent marriage, I came up with a plan to get revenge. An eye for an eye. These fake guests include fake family members. So, with the help of the wedding shop friend who helped my ex-brother get married, I went to the Human Resources office and personally met each part-time wedding guest who was hired. I honestly confessed to them that my younger sister was in danger of being fraudulently married. Some of them decided to join my revenge plan. From their point of view, they have been working as part-time wedding guests with a sense of professionalism, thinking they are helping brides and grooms who cannot fill the wedding hall. They were very displeased and angry at the fact that their future brother-in-law tried to trample on their pure hearts by engaging in a fraudulent marriage. I said to my future brother-in-law, "Do you know what's the most important thing right now? I'm standing here knowing everything. Starting with the fact that you are not an employee of a large company, but a part-time worker at a convenience store. You even mobilized fake guests and tried to hold a fake wedding. The people gathered here are witnesses to prove it. So what? Are you gonna get me arrested? Do whatever you want. Are you that confident?" "Aisha? Yes, I'm confident. What should I do?" "It's not like I'm doing this for a day or two." "The law? Well, it's obvious. I didn't steal any money from you, or did I lie about registering the marriage? This means that fraud cannot be established in the first place." "I know. It won't be a crime or fraud. However, there is also a system called civil litigation. If I file a lawsuit for damages, it's nothing like cutting off I was talking about cutting off a little bit of my flesh and cutting out your bones. Do you want me to repeat the same thing twice? No money was stolen from you, so what's the point of claiming compensation? Did you forget the $100,000 worth of wedding items you requested from me? Did you know that I paid the reservation deposit as per the quote? Because I didn't cancel it on time, I'll end up wasting that huge reservation deposit. Because of the fraudulent marriage you planned, I'll suffer a huge financial loss. Didn't you know? Do you have the ability to compensate for that large amount of money? Do you have any proof? Lawsuits aren't that easy. The evidence is overwhelming. Many people here have also promised to testify." His expression turned dark. "It's an ultimatum. Please kneel in front of me and my sister and beg for forgiveness for everything. Say you're sorry for scamming me. I was such a horrible piece of trash. Bow your head and ask for forgiveness. You're threatening me until the very end." "What if I don't do it?" "We are immediately proceeding with a lawsuit seeking compensation based on the lost wedding contract deposit. You'll have to deal with debt collection until you cough up that money. You'll become a credit delinquent, and you will not be able to open a bank account or cell phone in your name." At that time, the man's mother, who was half-faced and babbling, jumped in front of me and my sister and knelt, and then crying, begging, confessed the surprising truth. "Please forgive me. Please forgive me just once. I just did what that man told me to do, really." "What? Isn't that your son?" "No, it's absolutely not like that. He said that if things went well, he would even get a Mercedes-Benz and an apartment building. He said he'll pay off my debt of $30,000 that I owed, because my husband paid a gold digger, so I just pretended to be his mother." I really didn't know how to explain in words how I felt at that time. It was a lie that he worked for a large company, the wedding guests were all a lie, and now even his mother was a lie. I thought we had been caught by a very dirty scammer. Anyway, I sent the fake mother-in-law away since she revealed her real identity and begged for forgiveness, shedding tears of repentance. The fake in-laws kept groveling and saying thank you even as she left. The sight of her tripping over her own feet and rolling around on the ground was a pathetic sight. Rolling around on the floor was so ugly. Money can corrupt people to that extent. Well, at least the fake in-laws regretted their mistakes, and at least she apologized. But my future brother-in-law was shameless even during that time. What a joke. If you want to sue, do it. Anyway, it's the same whether life as a parentless person ends like this or that way. You don't have any parents? What does that mean? He didn't open his mouth. I can't believe it. Yeah, shit. I am also an orphan without a mother or father. Do you feel a bit relieved now that everything is exposed? The world is so unfair. You are all orphans. Some people are successful businessmen, while others are living at the bottom, relying on others. Was it something like that? So that's why you were able to convincingly tell Joanne, who is smarter than anyone else, about fake love? You know better than anyone else the sadness of not having parents, so you took advantage of that. Don't show off. Anyway, you are all orphans. Even if you have a lot of money, this society doesn't look kindly on orphans. That's when you're a twisted scum like you. Rather, a flower that blooms in times of difficulty is recognized several times its value, just like me and Joanne. He was silent. The business is over, so tell me clearly. Either you get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness, or as I warned you, pay compensation for the damages, and end up at the bottom of your life. With bad credit. I'm sorry. What? I can't hear you very well. I'm sorry. It was so unfair that I lived a difficult life without my parents or money, so I had a bad feeling about it. I bow my head like this and ask for leniency. My future brother-in-law knelt and begged for a long time, and eventually I said, live upright and honestly from now on. And I said I put in a reservation deposit. That was a lie I made up to make you kneel. Actually, I haven't made any reservations. The existing wedding reservation was canceled the evening before, without any penalty. What? Do you still not understand? Since you were trying to defraud someone with a lie, you ended up getting hit in the back with a lie. From now on, be a good person. Behind me and my younger sister, who were leisurely leaving, we heard the screaming of the con man, but we didn't even offer a single word of sympathy. I was just happy inside. To me, what do words like affection and love between parents and children feel? I don't understand very well. Of course, I still have no memory of my parents. The broken relationship with my parents has not been reconnected to this day. However, after experiencing my younger sister's fraudulent marriage incident, one thing became clear to me. The love I have for my younger sister is not much different from that between parents and children. My sister and I don't feel empty or sad about our parents' absence at all. Thank you for listening to my story. Share a lot of heartwarming love with your family. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Take care.